Moving to my very first slide. So hi, I am Shayna Zabo. I am a librarian for Reading Machine, and I'm going to start off our presentation by giving you the background information about diversity, the more like academic kind of stuff with studies and quotes. And then later on, Samantha is going to share some songs and books and resources that you can use in your classrooms to be able to apply all of this background knowledge. So we're going to start off with why diversity in picture books and diverse languages in songs is important. Rudine Sims Bishop coined the term mirrors for books you can see yourself in, and windows for books that show people who are different from you. And it's really important to have both types of books for kids in your classroom or even for yourself. Now, a mirror and a window changes depending on who you are because we all have different experiences. So, for example, a mirror book for me, I'm going to show you a picture of it real quick, is this wonderful book called My Name is Aviva by Leslie Newman. And this book is a mirror for me because it's about a girl who grows up with a name that no one else has, and people think it's kind of weird. She wishes that she had like a normal name, and eventually she comes around to loving her name because she learns that she was named for her grandmother, her Jewish grandmother. And that's my exact story. I always grew up with the name Shayna. I didn't know any others, but I was named for my Jewish grandmother, and that's how I got that name. So it helps us feel validated and seen to have mirror books, but it also is good to have windows to learn about other people and other people's experiences. Seeing animals, on the other hand, as stand-in for humans in books is not as effective. You may think it might be a mirror book or a window book, but especially for kids 0 to 5, they're not as effective because kids need to see an actual person who looks like them, who looks human shaped and has their color skin or their clothing, or they can literally be a mirror and see themselves. So, as good as animal books are, or books with trucks, or books with monsters, and they have a lot of things that for positives for why we read them, you do want to keep in mind that you have to make sure that people can actually see themselves in the books that they're looking at. Now, so when you're selecting books for your classroom, just think about the diversity representation that is on the page. And it's important for kids to see and hear people who look like them and also people who are not like them, like seeing women working in all kinds of careers, seeing people of color represented in daily life, seeing all sizes and makeups of families, and seeing differently abled people. Seeing all kinds of people in books and TV and hearing different languages and songs is essential for emotional and social development. It leads to self-confidence when a kid sees themselves represented in a book. And seeing people who don't look like you leads to open-mindedness and empathy and breaks down negative assumptions. So I'm going to show you a couple of graphs to help understand the picture book industry and what we see when it comes to those mirror books and diversity. I'm going to start off with a general information of the United States. So this is a breakdown from the census that I believe was being collected for the 2020 census, but says 2019, of the different races in America. We have 60.1% white, 18.5 Hispanic, 12.5 Black, 5.6 Asian, and so forth. Now I'm going to break that down even further to just California. Now it's really little over here, but California you can see is pretty different than most of the rest of the country. And if you even broke it down to LA, it's going to show even different numbers. So we have 40% Hispanic, 36% white, 15% Asian, 5% Black, and then it breaks down even smaller than that. So we're seeing a pretty big difference from America. Now let's look over at what the books being published are broken down as. All right, so we have diversity in children's books starting in 2015. Someone made this wonderful picture to represent, and we're using those mirrors again, as we were talking about before, where some people see a lot of mirrors everywhere they look, and some people see like the tiniest mirror of representation of themselves in picture books. So we have 73.3% white, 12.5 animals, trucks, monsters, etc. 7.6 African American, and then it gets smaller from there. So looking at the numbers we saw in the slide before, these picture books coming out do not represent the United States as a whole. And what it means for us is there's just much less books with people of color being produced. What makes it harder to get them into your classroom. And then we'll make people feel invalidated if they don't see themselves. However, we did talk about animals, trucks, and non-human looking main characters in picture books. That's the second biggest category. And while it's, again, great, they can be great books, it does mean that there's not as much representation for other people. But the good news is we can see that there is a trend and change for the books coming out. We have 2018 right next to that picture where we have 50% white, 27 animals and other. That one did go up, 10% African American, and so forth. So there is a trend in books that represent people of color being produced more, and publishers are recognizing that that is important. So that is the good news for us when it comes to trends in publishing. So moving on, I want to move to a different type of diversity, which is differently abled people. And I've heard about this really great book called What Happened to You, written by James Catchpole. It's semi-autobiographical about he as a child who only has one leg had to have a lot of questions and talk to people all the time because he only had one leg. And so he wanted to make this book to help people like him who are growing up with that same situation. So I'm going to read quotes from it. Bear with me, but they're very good quotes, I promise. The current consensus when it comes to educating children about disability is that they should march right up to a disabled person and just ask. Curiosity is natural and to be encouraged. You hear people say, and far better kids ask. Sorry. You hear people say, and far better kids should ask questions than point and stare. But why are these the only two options? And why should the, yes, necessary job of educating children fall to the disabled child? I hope this story will both reassure disabled children and empower them to set their own boundaries, but it has a message for non-disabled readers too, both young and old. For every kid who yells questions at me at the playground, there is an agonized parent mouthing, sorry. Often they come over and ask, help, what should I do? The answer is simple. Sure, educate your child about disability. Some people's bodies work differently, and so on. But more importantly, see if you can get your child to empathize by asking them, how would you feel if you had to answer that question several times a day? See if you could get them to walk for just a moment in my shoe. Disabled kids shouldn't be expected to be educators when they're just figuring out their place in the world. It's othering, jarring, repetitive, and tiring. And I'm going to move on to talk about word choice because it can be a challenging thing to know what's the right word usage. So for instance, in those last two slides, I used the term differently abled, but those quotes used disabled. And I like the term differently abled because it doesn't imply, like dis tends to be a negative implication. So differently abled is pretty even. Different isn't, you can't equate difference. It can't be better or worse. It just is. So I like that word better. And here I have just a note on person first versus identity first. You see this a lot for in professional circles where people are trying to push using person first wording. So person first, we have my little pictures over here, a person with a mental health diagnosis versus identity first would be a mentally ill person. So by saying person before it, like a child who has autism versus an autistic child, you are implying that the person is more than just their identity, that they're made up of more than that one specific thing about them. Now, person first isn't used by everyone, including people who are within the community it is about. So it can be difficult to know what the correct word choice is. Sometimes you will be using person first wording, and then someone will say back the identity first. So there is, from what I've seen in a lot of panels and professional development that I've attended, there is no answer to this just yet. There's no full consensus by any community. So just be aware that it is a thing, and then try your best to use the wording that is the most respectful. Now I'm going to send you this link, but I also just have it listed right here. This is a great inclusive language guide that that a university put together, and it breaks down different terms to use for different races, ethnicities, national origin, gender and sexuality, pronoun usage. So it explains what's the most current correct wording, why we use that wording, and what the incorrect wording is. So I recommend that you check out that resource. I'll be sending it to you later when I send you the entire presentation after it's done being recorded. So just remember, words change over time. One word usage that is correct at one time can be wrong later. And as long as we are trying our best to be respectful and use our words from a place that comes from love, that's the best that we can do. As a general rule, ask the individual or group what terms they prefer, and that will most likely be the correct terminology. So we are going to move over to Samantha, who's going to give you some specific songs and resources that you can use in your classroom.
Okay, so one thing that we can do is we can use songs, but we would add some words or phrases from different languages. For my first example, it's a kind of a song that we would use within our story time titled Clap Everybody and Say Hello, and then I'll show you how it goes. Clap everybody and say hello, say hello, say hello. Clap everybody and say hello, no matter what the weather. And then I would instruct the children, now we're going to take out hello and we're going to say hola, which is how we say hello in Spanish. So clap along with me one more time. Clap everybody and say hola, say hola, say hola. Clap everybody and say hola, no matter what the weather. So it's a nice song, and with the song you can add Chinese or Arabic or French if you want to, just depending upon what you think your audience will gravitate to. Now, another way we can involve some American Sign Language, for example. to introduce more diversity with our children is we can use American Sign Language within our songs. So a very popular way is to use American Sign Language in nursery rhymes, like the Itsy Bitsy Spider or Little Miss Muppet. Below you can find two examples, which is Hello Friends, which is a greeting song that we would use by teaching the children to say hello, and then with that one we would normally end it with the same song but just goodbye friends. So I'm going to show you the second song I have listed, which is The More We Get Together. So for this one, I would involve just a little bit over 3 signs. So for example, the first one, I have my hands kind of clapped like this. It kind of looks like, for me, resembles a little duck, and they bump beaks. This is our sign for more. Our sign for together is we'll put our fist together and we'll move it side to side. So we had more, we get together. Our third sign is going to be for happy. You want to leave your palm flat, and it's kind of like you're pushing air towards your body. This is our sign for happy. And our last sign, our fourth sign, is for friends. So how I like to explain it is we have 2 fingers, they are friends, and when they see each other, they hug. So this is our sign for friends. So we're going to bring that all together, and we're going to do it nice and slow, because this might be the first time some of us are doing it together. So if you can please follow me. The more we get together, 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 the more we get together, the happier we'll be. For your friends are my friends, and my friends are your friends. The more we get together, the happier we'll be. All right, for all of y'all to follow along, good job. You guys did fantastic. After that, we're going to go into songs for ESL learners. So for this one, we can use songs that are in Spanish. We can use songs in any language depending upon our audience. But for the 2 examples we have in the French song, Frère Jacques, which can also be translated in English as well as Spanish, about a monk who sleeps in while the bell is ringing. But we're going to do an example of counting to 10 with our fingers and our hands in Spanish. And this is just a great way to practice just some Spanish phrasing as well as counting with our children. It goes like this. Uno, dos, en tres deditos, cuatro, cinco, seis deditos, siete, ocho, nueve deditos, y uno más son días, dos manitas, 10 deditos, dos manitas, 10 deditos, dos manitas, 10 deditos, cuántolas conmigo. So I like that one because it just practice some numbers in Spanish, and it makes it feel really fun because of the melody that it goes along with it. So finally, a nice way to open kids up to cultural appreciation from different cultures and religions is to introduce them to some of songs. So what we have below listed is a couple of them that we had picked. So the first one is a song from the Jewish religion, which is the dreidel song. Followed after that is the song the Kookaburra, which is a kind of like a comfort song from Australia. And our last one listed within the Latinx community is the Sana Sana Colita de Rana, which is an expression used as a consolation when a child has fallen or gotten hurt, as a way to kind of make them feel better about their boo-boo. So now I'm going to go into some books and resources that might help you if you are just looking for like a way on how you can add more diverse books into your classroom. So we have our first 2 options, which is our first one is Just Ask. That was written by Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor. And our next one is All Are Welcome, written by Alexandra Penfold. So if you are just kind of trying to figure out like, wow, where can I find some books that will benefit my children? You can check out We Need Diverse Books at www.diversebooks.org, or you can go to the ALA.org website, which has a lot of lists to help you with your research.
Thank you, Samantha, for all of those wonderful examples. And I just wanted to jump in right before we finish the presentation to expand on the ALA book lists and book awards. To just let you know that if you want to know anything more about that, feel free to reach out and ask me questions. I'm currently serving my second year on the Stonewall Book Award for children's literature. So where we read a lot of books that came out that year and compile them. Stonewall is for LGBT plus content. The other awards that I have listed there are completely different categories. So there's the Pura Belpré Award for Latinx Hispanic. There's the Coretta Scott King Award for African American and Black literature, and so forth. So there's if you want like the award-winning best books for different diversities, that's the place to look.